We got a new police super is going to be introduced today, and we have a guest to talk about Mr. Snelling. Andrea, tell us who this is.
Larry Snelling or Eugene Roy?
Eugene Roy.
Eugene Roy, retired Chicago Police Chief of Detectives, also specializing in investigations, public safety, officer wellness, resiliency. Got the perfect person to talk to us about Chief Snelling, soon to be Superintendent Snelling. Hey, Gene, how are you?
I'm doing great this morning. How about you?
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Is Gene okay? I mean, you got a lot of titles, Gene. What do we call you?
Gene is fine.
All right, so tell me about Mr. Snelling. How long have you known him?
I've known Mr. Snelling since, going back a number of years. Saw him when he came on the job and have followed the progress of his career down through my service on the department.
Good cop?
Good cop, great cop.
Gene, tell us a little bit. It seems that out of the three, Larry Snelling, Angel Navalis, and Sean Barnes, that he kind of was the front runner, had a lot of support within the rank and file. The officers, the supervisors seemed to like him and thought he was the good choice because obviously he's from within, too.
It's obviously a key factor, having somebody from within. One of the finalists was a chief from a department in Wisconsin, and that wouldn't have gone over well with the rank and file. And, somebody like that coming in from the outside, there's always the learning curve is even steeper. And let's be candid, right now the city can't afford to spend a lot of time on a learning curve for a new superintendent.
That's well said. Now, you were a guy that came up through the ranks. You become chief of detectives. You find out that's a different job than you probably even knew. There's a responsibility that goes when you get to upper management. It's a lot of weight, a lot of work. How do you feel as far as confidence goes that Mr. Snelling's up for the gig?
Well, I think that he's extremely well qualified for the job, and I can say that because he was a district commander. And having been a district commander myself, I can tell you from my personal experience and the advice that was given to me when I was promoted to that rank, that being a district commander in the Chicago Police Department is the second toughest job in the department outside the superintendent's role. And it's for a variety of reasons. First of all, you are in a position where you are responsible for several hundred officers and a community numbering in the hundreds of thousands. And you are there. You have to deal with the community. You have to deal with the faith community. You have to deal with the business community, different segments of the community, the elected officials. And so you've got that. You've got the problems of crime. You have to be a leader and a mentor and a administrator for the people that work for you. And you're pretty much doing it yourself. There's a minimal amount of supervision. Very often, the only time you hear from downtown is when things aren't going well. And as Superintendent Terry Hillard used to say, you're a district commander. You have to understand that you have to work with all of those different groups, all of those different people, and address all those different factors. But at the end of the day, you work for me, while at the same time you have to work with them. So working with them while working for me is a real difficult. It's a tricky road to navigate, and he did it. He did it well.
Well, and that really brings up the obvious question. How independent can Larry Snelling be in the environment that he's in? Now, to give Brandon Johnson credit, I'm told, and Andrea, you can tell me if you hear the same thing, that Brandon Johnson has largely stayed out of the police's way since he took over the mayor's job. However, now, will that change? And because, the main complaint last time around was the guy comes in from Dallas, and Lori Lightfoot was running the police department. We can't have that. Hire them, get out of the way, let them do their job, and if they don't get the job done, then get involved.
If you don't trust somebody to do the job, you shouldn't have given them the job in the first place. I agree with you 100%.
Gene, how is he going to bridge the gap? And I want to be careful how I phrase this question. How is he going to bridge the gap between the two schools of thought going on in Chicago right now? One, law and order, and the other, providing the needed resources, say, for communities that, are lacking and such?
That's one of those things. There's no textbook that says in case of A, do B, or C. We live in a dynamic environment, and it changes from day to day. You have to be able to think on your feet. You have to react to changing situations, changing dynamics, and do the best you can do. Take your years of experience, both on the police side and on the human side. How do you talk to people? How do you interact with people? How do you treat them when they're friendly and when they're not so friendly? That's why it's such a complex job. You have to do all of those things at the same time.
But if you get in to become a cop, you don't aspire to be a politician. This job as police superintendent in Chicago has aspects of both.
It certainly does. But, somebody told me a long time ago, I think it was in college, Politics 101, define politics. And politics is defined as when you have three or more human beings interacting in one environment. So everybody is political to a certain extent. It's whether it's small p political or capital P political. I think that he'll do a fine job. He did an outstanding job in Englewood, which is a very diverse community with a lot of crime issues, one of the highest crime rates in the city. He handled that well. He's shown that he can handle the job.
Another great thing, too, he is a local guy. He's not, of course, he rose through the ranks, starting out as a beat cop.
He rose through the ranks. He's from Chicago.
Grew up in Englewood, went to Englewood High School, graduated DePaul. So we have a local guy here.
No, it's a big deal. Nick, say hi to our friend Eugene Roy.
Hello, Mr. Roy. So with those local ties then, and you say, you know him, he's a great cop. Do you think that's going to help with the community aspect of this and how that goes? Simply because, hey, he's a Chicago guy, and he was in those tough neighborhoods.
Well, first of all, that means he's got one or two less strikes to start out with against him. You have to understand the environment that you work in. And he certainly understands that environment because he's a product of that environment. Yeah. That obviously gives him a leg up on things.
Good.
Jane, I hope you'll come back and talk to us about this. And obviously, I hope you're 100% right about this. We need a tough guy in that position who's able to bridge all those gaps and be all those things to all people. He won't have perfect days every day, but more good days than bad. We'll take that out of the gate.
We certainly will.
All right. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Gene.
My pleasure. Take care.
That's Eugene Roy, retired chief of detectives, a consultant now, specialized in investigations, public safety, officer wellness, resiliency, all those things.